Okay, now we're going to look at a series of finishes from the guard, and it's important when looking at this to realize that really most grappling matches end with one of four main finishes, especially from the guard when we're talking about the cross arm lock, the triangle choke, some form of a kimura, whether it's underhooking, grabbing the wrist, or even a omoplata, the same manipulation of the arm, okay, or you know, a couple other finishes that are somewhat more common. But then beyond that, you see a big drop-off where you don't see a lot of advanced grapplers losing to some other really tricky finish. So this says we have to go back to the triangle choke, go back to the cross-arm lock, and you always want to refine that, find more ways of setting it up, more ways of connecting it to other finishes, more ways of following it up should it fail. This is really, really important. So when I have Chris in my guard, we'll start off with a cross-arm lock. And I'm not really looking for the cross-arm lock that, like it has to work, like it has to succeed. I'm just using that to get him to react, okay? Because what happens is I'll end up with one arm inside my legs, and that's leading to my triangle choke. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I'm going here, I grab his elbow. This is a cross grip setup. I put my foot on his hip. I slide my hips out as I pull his elbow to my hip, all right? And I'm in good shape so far, but just as I'm stepping over, he yanks out. But as this arm goes away, this one goes in. So then I'm going to pull this one across, put my foot on his hip, and let his head back inside as I rotate the other direction. And then real quick, I grab this shin so that he can't get his head up. And then if I slide my hips out, he becomes small enough to set in a triangle. Yet at that point, he starts to raise up and get his posture. So before he gets there, either I can step past the head and get the arm without crossing my ankles. Just keep your shins parallel and squeeze so he can't yank his arm out. Or from here again, once he starts to get up really tall, I can't even close up my triangle. Here's what's going to happen. As he gets up nice and tall, I'm going to go from here to here. Bring this foot in front, and then lay the leg over his shoulder and squeeze my knees together, and then I get an arm lock in this fashion. Let's look at that again from the beginning. And again, I have to stress that the cross arm lock was just my lead in. I wanted to see what he would do, and then if he'd give me another arm or give me a choke, or in the long run, give me something else entirely off of the triangle choke, which was off of the cross arm lock. So you're thinking ahead, and you're not really so heavily invested in that first finish, the first thing you're trying for. And I'm not going to go back to square one should the first attempt fail. I'm going to keep going. So from here, I set up my cross arm lock, and he yanks out before I can finish it. So I grab this arm, and see, once I've got an arm, I know I can get his head back in. I let his head back in as I rotate, and I pull his arm across, and as soon as possible, I grab this. And if I get this far, I'm pretty much assured of getting the triangle choke. But if he starts to get his posture up, or let's say I get it this far, and just as he gets up, I just come up and step past his head and I get the arm. But if he gets further up before I can do that, then I go from here to here. Cross my leg over, get this arm in, step this one over his shoulder, that's what you can hang your hips on. And then you squeeze your knees together as you raise up. Keep his thumb pointing this way so that his elbow is lined up. And then you raise your hips. And you've got fulcrum right here behind the arm. Now looking at this another way, I can do the same initial setup. I come under, cross arm lock. He pulls out. Now I've got this arm and I'm right there for the omoplata. Okay? And if I can extend him forward, now if my hips are under him, I'll just slide my hips out. If I can extend it forward and come up, that's great. But if I can't, and he turns back in, and I let him right back in, and I go to the triangle again. So you see they connect again because what they had in common was I still had that arm throughout. All right, so that's another direction it can go. Here's the third direction. Right off of this first finish. Cross arm lock. He pulls out, I underhook, all right, with the arm that's remaining. And now I pull this tight to my body, put my hand on my bicep, and then come over the wrist. Squeeze your knees together, press down, do not cross your ankles. And then I bend his elbow at a right angle, and I turn my body to the left while I hug this arm in tight. And then it's a good finish against the shoulder. While I'm there, he extends his arm, I can move my hips out, and then I get an elbow press. Or if he brings it across, I can put my foot on his hip, let his head turn back in, he comes in, and then I step my other leg over his head, and I've got a scissor cross arm lock right there as well. So you can see, again, it all started with the cross arm lock, but it went elsewhere because of how he responded and how he complicated things. In countering one thing, he's walking into the next thing. In other words, use your cross arm lock to send him running. All right, send him running into another trap. While he's busy worrying about the thing he just prevented, he's running headlong into the next finish, and then the next one. And eventually you will catch him.